I wanted to talk a little bit about my aesthetic choices putting handles together. So here's our block. Turned out great. It turns out that it's a little long, which is great. So when I lay this on top of it to mark out my lines, I want this stripe to not interfere with the pinhole, but I want it to be close to the pinhole. So I'm glad that I actually left it a little bit long. I think that it kind of looks pretty good right about there. The pinhole won't interfere with it too much. And I kind of imagine where this is gonna fall. I'm just make a mark there, make a little mark there. And then I just take a radius, any radius. I happen to use masking tape a lot in the shop, so I just happen to have a radius that I like. The radius adds a little nice curve to the front of the knife handle scale, which would be the bolster area. When I'm choosing mosaic pins for this, I tend to keep cool temperatures with cool temperatures and warm temperatures with warm temperatures. So if I'm using a cool wood, like this Catalox, and I've got the blue and the white, I've chosen this cute little pin. It's just a black surround with silver, and the silver will pair really nicely with the Hamon line in this blade. So I've kind of got that sort of lined up. I have to imagine where I want to have that fall, and I think that's probably pretty good right about there. So I tend to trace it. And the only reason I trace it out is so that when I'm trimming off on the bandsaw, it's less for me to grind. I'm just gonna draw a circle in there, circle in there. I was going to get to the drill press first, but I think that this is a little much to sand off on my big sander, so I'm just gonna trim it real quick. Yeah, that's gonna be a lot less work for my sander, taking that off. I'm comfortable with that. Need to adjust my table here on my grinder. So I'm gonna put a nice little bevel on it. Somewhere around 35 degrees. It's great. I find it makes it a little more comfortable for the person's hand. You can just sneak this forward like that. So I have this, and I'm gonna put a little chamfer on that. And all I wanna do is I wanna get it down to just where it starts to kiss the blue. Then I'm gonna stop. Rougher belt on this one. It's just a little. I'll smooth it off with the smoother belt after I get down to the blue line. Now I'm going to sand it to that blue line, and then I'm going to put on a smoother belt, and I'm going to sand it to its final finish because I can't sand anything that close once the knife is assembled. As you can see, I'm getting closer and closer. So close, almost there. Tell because when I look down, looking for that blue line, this still needs to be revealed. It's starting to be revealed there though. I'm gonna go nice and gentle. Yep. I'll put on a 220 belt. I find putting on a new belt, I use little tiny finishing touches. Keeps it cleaner, it's nicer. You're gonna slow it down too. So right now it's spinning there. I'm hearing me slow it down to like 30 on the variable speed. I'm just kissing it. Just wanna take the scratches out at this point. And then I'll go up to an even higher grit right after this one. That's great. The scratches will disappear. So when I hold this up, you can see that little line of blue slowly being revealed. That's perfect. So now I'm gonna go up one more grit and we'll call it done, probably a 400. All those lines will disappear now. They're all pretty much done. That's great. I'm gonna go up one more grit. And now I've got a 600 grit, and then I find If I take the time to do this before it gets assembled, it makes for a much nicer, cleaner finish and a nicer handling experience for the chef or the cook. It's all about the little things. Just kiss it, just like that. That's perfect. That'll be really comfortable in the hand. So there we go. Now it's onto the drill press. I took the time to go over to the grinder, just scratch up that surface so that the epoxy has a little bit more to grab. I'm just gonna line up my holes that I had drawn out earlier. There's one, and there's the other one right there. Like that. This is a sacrificial table to drill into. Saw it on the internet, probably came out of the Kentucky Knife Mafia. Whoever demonstrated it on YouTube, thank you very much. It helps me a lot. I'm really glad that I started using this idea. You punch down through the blue there and the white, and back to the other side of the catalogs, and when it hits the sacrificial plate, it won't get any blowout on the back end of that drill hole. It's very handy. And aluminum is way cheaper than having to replace or continue to sand the scales because it's all ripped out the back. Now before I move this, I take one of my pins. As you can drop it in there. Turned out great. Drilled all the way through. Didn't get any blowout in the back on the grain. Now it's time to go pry this apart, clean it up, and glue it. So we're gonna pop this apart. I like to leave the ends here irregular when I'm building it because it's easier to get the chisel into it to find the place so you don't pop apart the wrong part of it. Because I put masking tape on it, hopefully it's an easier cleanup job. I'm happy I'm doing this video. I don't usually show all the steps involved and even just putting a handle on or putting the whole thing together. And it's good to know how much work goes into one of my knives so that the client can appreciate that. Because it's going to be theirs a lot longer than it would be mine. Put a little acetone on that. May not all come off. I might have to use the grinder or the sandpaper on it. This one's fine. This one's just fine. This will clean up nicely. Just going to scuff this up a little bit. Take off that glue. Give epoxy a little bit extra to go on. Be right back. And I'm back. Nice and clean. Beautiful. Time to glue it up. Probably scuff it a little bit. Any spots that have a little shine on it have to go. Like I said before, I make a mess with epoxy, so just trying to manage my mess here. There's a nice piece of plywood, and Mikey will shoot me if he finds out that I dumped epoxy all over it. I think he's making drawers this week. Looks like he's making drawers. I mentioned Mike before. He's a cabinet maker that shares my space. He's Rouge Riverhi Heritage Interiors online. Heck of a cabinet maker. It's nice having him around. Well, that's certainly visually ugly in a video. I'll keep a friend. I won't waste my friendship over some epoxy on board. Little pins here. One. There's two. Find the more fastidious I am with keeping everything clean and even and polished and all that stuff. The more work goes into these steps, the nicer the final product will be. This YouTube channel, these videos that I do, it's a really great way for me to kind of archive my work and my progress. It's not just about teaching, because there's countless videos out there on how to do this. So I like to show what I do and how I do it and how I've been influenced. My way is not the only way, just the way that I work. And it gives me a chance to look back when I'm older, in a year or two, and see, oh, that's where I was then. That's what I was doing then. Yeah, okay, I could see that. This is a really slow setting epoxy. I don't like the 5-minute stuff. It kind of gives me anxiety, makes me rush, and I don't want to rush. If something moves, something shifts, I want to be able to pull it apart, change it, and redo it. I learned that one the hard way. I've been working so hard this summer, and so much this summer. I was one, and then there's two. This one might need a little tap. Just a little tap a tap. See if they're lined up the way I want. Looking good. Ah, it fits. Boy, that makes me feel pretty good. Like all my planning has paid off. Should just slide right in, nice and snug. Beautiful. There we go, just tap, tap, tap. Turn on its face like this. I like to put one clamp right up here, right at the end, right where your fingers are gonna go. It's gonna do a little squeeze out there, which is just fine. I don't make it too tight, I make it tight. When working with epoxy, you don't want to squeeze all the epoxy out, but it definitely has to be tight. So better than finger tight, but not as tight as Arnold Schwarzenegger. It would squeeze your hand if he was shaking your hand. That's gonna be fine right there. Last step, I'm gonna take a little more acetone and I clean off that squeeze out. Right in there. If you're working on a knife and you're new at this, don't forget to clean this up, because it is a pain in the butt trying to clean it up afterwards. See? It's nice and clean. All this goop is gonna ooze out. So now I'm just gonna prop it up and let it sit. Not gonna move it, not gonna touch it. Just gonna let it sit and do its thing for the next 24 hours.